Alright everyone, and hello. It's a Shepherd here with a review for Monster Hunter Stories. We are going to be going over the phone port of the game. Just for full disclosure, I have completed the game on 3DS and phone, so I'll be going back and forth a little bit from my experience. But the content you're going to see is going to be almost entirely from the phone trial that is available for free. So, character creation in this game is pretty standard. You can make a normal-looking character or an extremely cartoony character, depending on your... however you want to go around this world. And this game really centers around you in a village in the Monster Hunter universe, where rather than being hunters, you are instead riders. And through your connection through kinship stones, be they real friendship or ancient mind control devices, rather than hunt monsters and fight them constantly, you will find yourself regularly making friends with them. Main plot of the game revolves around a black mist. They call it the Black Blight. They say it's a natural phenomenon, and it causes monsters to get angry. So they don't like it. It's bad when that happens because the monsters decide to go around causing more issues. In Chevel's case, let's just say it's going to be pretty hard to get home for dinner. Kind of a brutal thing to do. The game is set up to be a kid's game. However, I don't remember seeing anything like this in Pokemon. So definitely sets a bit of a darker tone. You do end up recovering from that. You actually almost morbidly 1 year later, like, yeah, I guess I'll just become a rider anyways. Oh well. We'll make friends with the monsters. It's fine. In order to do that, you gotta go out. You gotta hatch an egg. Now, this is the part of the game that I worry loses people. But all I'm gonna say is you gotta give the cat a chance. You know, the reoccurring issue when they try to add, lots amount of narrative in the Monster Hunter series is you are the hero, and as your own self-inserted fan fiction, they kind of need somebody else to kind of do a lot of the talking for you. Now, I know Naviru looks a little weird, kind of like a strange rubber cat. He's actually got a really funny sense of humor, though, and he will grow on you through his really weird facial expressions and the way he talks and whatnot. And he does actually give some genuinely good advice. We're going to get to the combat section in this game relatively soon, but he's the one that really kind of helps guide you along in terms of if you're doing something wrong. He's like, hey, should maybe pay attention. And I kind of like the way he interacts as well. I mean, look at these donuts. I don't know. I don't know what that fascination is with him and donuts, but I kind of like it. So, biggest issue with this game, if we're going to be talking about the differences between the phone and the 3DS, this is not for show. This is me genuinely doing the absolute best that I can to try and navigate onto this pad. Now, I know I could just tap the walk button, but I don't want to do that. So, at least in terms of controls, not having an analog or any controller support as well is about the biggest downside I can put for the mobile port. Now, the combat is maybe, next to Naviru, the one thing where people kind of like prejudge the game, like, oh, it's just simple rock, paper, and scissors, simple baby game or just lottery. But it's really based on the fact that your weapons themselves have combos, right? So for Greatsword, I can do tech, speed, or speed, power, power, tech. Depending on how I do that, I can deal extra damage. Plus the fact that if I combine my attack with my Monstie, we're able to get a double attack, which not only deals a lot more damage, will also increase our kinship by quite a bit, which will then allow us to ride the Monstie, which will then allow us to deal even more damage with a special kinship attack, in addition to fully healing them. So there's a lot of things that go on there. A big difference between the phone port and the 3DS port is rather than mashing buttons, you gotta like tap buttons. It's honestly way too easy. So this fight here with Cuckoo, this actually was a really fun fight. I did this like way under leveled. And so it was like maybe the first major fight that I did in the game on my own. Cuckoo goes ahead, runs away, and reveals his den. And so that's kind of like one of the main loops in the game is you find a monster in the overworld, you fight it, maybe use some items or some abilities to try and track it down. You go to its den, you steal some eggs, and then you're going to go ahead and hatch them and go and get yourself more monsties. So rather than like, you know, so in Pokemon, like you'd wander around in some grass or some water for a while until you can actually go ahead and get yourself a random Pokemon, it's much more deterministic here. So here I am doing my kinship ability after getting to the little nest. And you'll see, like, we have a bunch of different eggs we can go through, and based on the pattern, based on whether they smell like anything, based on whether they're heavy or not, I might decide to take one over another. And you can use those to kind of help guide you. And, you know, if you wanted to spoil yourself, you can go out there. Their guides are like, oh, this is this monster, this is that monster. I'd recommend doing it mostly blind. It's kind of fun to try and figure out what it might be based on what the pattern is. I mean, that pattern looks kind of like a Cuckoo, right? And so we get out of the cave. And what does it say? Go and tap on this egg. Behold! It's actually amazing. They went ahead and they created little mutant baby versions of all the monsters. And the real grind in it is going through and finding different monsters and whatnot that have complementary genes that you can then use to gene splice. And in addition to gene splicing, there's like kind of like a tic-tac-toe sort of go ahead and get yourself bonus stats in there as well. So the people that really want to get really intense getting ready for Monster Hunter Stories 2, assuming there's a similar mechanic in there, you know, there's a lot of depth in there outside of just like IVs and EVs. Of course, in addition to upgrading your monsties, there's upgrading your equipment as well. In this case, I just need a bunch of low-grade ore, and I can upgrade my weapon, make it a little bit stronger. I like that. The game as a whole is, imagine what an RPG would be like if it was Monster Hunter. And every weird little thing that you find in Monster Hunter seems to have some sort of analog in the game as well. Like Sword and Shield is like mostly a speed combo-based weapon that can rotate in and out of different combinations well. And so, in terms of like PvP as well as other mechanics throughout the game, you can actually go ahead and fight other riders as well. You can't attack them directly, so there's no necessarily specifically trying to chop your buddy's head off. But you can do all the same normal things you can do within a fight in that you can't control your monster necessarily, but you can control how you attack. You can control what sort of items you use. You can use different special abilities. You can try and build up combos and whatnot. You can switch out your monsties and whatnot. So I think, at least in the US, there was a little bit of a failure to launch. You know, this game was developed by Marvelous. It came out at a kind of a weird time for the 3DS. It was getting towards the end of its life cycle. And I think the overall appeal of the game made it look like, this is, again, just a game for children. But I'd have to really say, like, look, check out the demo. You get to play, like, really 2 hours, maybe even more, depending on how many side quests you want to do. See whether or not it runs well on your phone or not. If you've got a 3DS and if you ever see the game on sale, at least before the Switch version comes out for Stories 2, you know, give it a shot. You know, Capcom, I can't imagine you guys watch these videos. If you do, hey, Switch port for Stories when? It'd be wonderful for game preservation. So yeah, I mean, you know, last thing I'd say is like, you know, there's gathering and stuff in the world. Like every weird little analog you can imagine is in this game. So fishing, mining, gathering herbs, gathering mushrooms, combining such things. All right, so as of this exact moment, I think the game is on sale for $5 in the Google Play Store. I'd say still check out the demo first to make sure it's right for you. But if you enjoyed it at all, give it a shot. The only advice I can give is try to stay far away from using the cover flagship monster as much as possible. Try to stick with just using the own monsties that you hatch out of an egg yourself and raise. Otherwise, the game gets to be a little bit too easy. All right, so I think that's it for now. Check me out, twitch.tv/SDShepherd. Check out Stories. Give it a shot. I mean, we're going to be getting a lot more news on Stories 2 in a couple days, so maybe this will help edge you over one way or another, whether you want to check out the game or not. Hopefully it informs you out either way. Check me out, twitch.tv/SDShepherd. Stream there every day. Love to see you over there. Until next time, good luck, and have a good hunt.